What happened to Adam and Eve after their banishment from paradise? Have you ever wondered about that? The Bible tells us nothing more about them post-rebellion, except that they had a few children. How did they respond to God's verdict of removing them from Eden and posting celestial creatures and flaming swords to block the way back inside? Did they linger around the gate, waiting to see if the cherubs would ever fall asleep? After a few failed attempts at re-entry, did they spend years planning a covert infiltration of their former home? Did they try to bribe the angelic guardians or deceive them with smooth words learned from the serpent? Did they eventually resort to falling to the ground at the impenetrable gate and crying out to their Creator with impassioned pleas for mercy and a second chance to get it right? I can't imagine how desperate they must have been to get back into that perfect land. They must certainly have been more desperate than even Dorothy at the closed gates of Oz. When she came to the Emerald City and rang the bell, she was confronted with a greeting that could only be described as the opposite of cordial. She had ignored the absent sign's instructions to knock instead of ring, but even after her desperate knock, she was still not permitted entry. But then, with a flash of her ruby-red slippers, the gates were opened, and she stepped inside. Though Adam and Eve were more desperate at the gate of Eden than Dorothy was at the gate of the Emerald City, Eve didn't have beautiful, sparkling, ruby-red slippers. The gate to paradise wasn't going to open again for Adam and Eve. No matter what, they had rebelled against their Creator's instructions, and the verdict was final. The gate was closed. Humanity's Creator had a plan, though, and it wasn't to leave his whole creation forever beating their fist against iron-clad gates, relentlessly begging for entrance. Our Creator, in his infinite wisdom and grace and love, had a plan for redeeming his creation, for calling his runaway lost children back home. The cost would be extraordinarily, supernaturally high, though. The Creator would take on the flesh of his creation. He would step down from his throne into Earth's sin-filled atmosphere. He would leave behind streets of pure gold for thorn-infested streets of dirt. The Exalted One would humble himself so completely that he would take the sin of his creation upon himself. He would suffer the consequences of it. He would die an agonizing death, and his lifeless body would be sealed in the darkness of a tomb. The innocent Lamb of God would sacrificially offer himself as the payment for humanity's sin, so that they would have the chance to return home. Now let's enter into the biblical narrative, beginning with the Roman governor Pilate's decision. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. The governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. Then they led him away to crucify him. Those who passed by hurled insults at him. In the same way, the chief priest, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. The robbers who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At the end of time as we know it, each individual member of humanity will come to the gates of paradise and experience one of two entirely different realities. One is that they will come to the magnificent gates and find them closed tight, secured with a lock for which they don't have the key. They will be confronted with the horrifying sight of celestial creatures and flaming swords. The way inside will be permanently blocked, and for all eternity they will figuratively, hopelessly pound their fists against the gates of paradise they will never know. But for redeemed humanity, for those who have followed the way, the truth, and the life, for those who have been sprinkled with the blood of the Lamb of God, they will come to the eternally open gates of the city whose architect and builder is God. They will not be greeted by fearsome cherubs, but instead by the Good Shepherd, who has greatly anticipated their arrival. And he will say, Well done, good and faithful servant. Come inside and share in my joy. And if you happen to hesitate, overcome by emotion, feeling unworthy of the reward of eternity in his presence, he will lovingly extend his nail-pierced hands and say to you again, come inside, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.